So is it going to be me interviewing you, or we're just gonna answer the same question? I don't know.
I think it should be that I read the question and then you answer, and then I'll ask you. So let's do this one. So, what do you hope to achieve by sharing your story?
I hope to empower people, or mostly women. There are a lot of women who has experienced what I've experienced, and they don't know how to cope with it. Sometimes it is very difficult for someone to move on from a difficult situation that they had to go through, especially when they don't have anybody that they can really rely on with regards to something like this, because it's really, really difficult, right? So my hopes in talking about this difficult situation I've experienced, because I have, it's more than once. It's happened several times. It's 10 miscarriages and one stillbirth. That's basically, it's really hard, and every single time it never gets better, right? And then you get to actually delivering a baby that's what do you call that, that has no heartbeat, and then you get to see this baby. It's like it's a difficult situation from the very beginning to I guess to the very end of it. And what I want to be able to do is to be able to give some hope for women who go through these types of hardships, that there is there is hope, that you are going to be able to get better. You're not necessarily going to forget about those situations, because they are going to be hard to forget, but it gets easier as the time passes. That's what
Uh,
I'm
Why do
hoping
you
to
think it's
accomplish.
important to talk openly about it, about
Because
miscarriage?
not very many people actually talk about how they feel and what they went through. And not very many people know how much grief it entails. For, like, we always want to keep it within ourselves, but like what I was trying to, with my experiences, what I was try to find was someone who has gone through it. And I wanted that person who has gone through the same exact thing I've gone through, to tell me that there is hope out there, that I'm not going to feel horrible my whole entire life, that it is going to get better, that it is going to make a little bit more sense later, and I'm going to be able to walk again. I'm going to be able to, to work out again. I'm going to be able to take care of my kids again, even if my feelings are super heavy at that moment, because those moments really are very traumatic. And my hope when I was going through that was to be able to find the hope that I want to find in other people. And like, to tell you the truth, not very many people really want to talk about it, because it's really hard. It's hard to talk about it. It's hard to let your emotions out, and, like, to be vulnerable, and to talk about what you went through, because it's the hardest thing to go back to it every single time it is brought up.
Can I share my thoughts?
Yes. What
Um, it's just a very private thing.
mm-hmm.
It's very private. It's very personal, and there's just a lot of shame and embarrassment. A lot of, especially initially. Um, like when, just from my perspective, as the father, it's really, and the husband, it's kind of like it's it's different because we experienced it together, so many of them. This stillbirth was still very traumatic and very heavy. but it's nothing like what would have been like if we had a stillbirth the first one, right? Because we had sort of had some training wheels, so to speak, with grief, right? And I think the part that's really hard is is this feeling of shame, this feeling of embarrassment, this feeling of lost hope. And and it's hard because you're wanting to hide it most of the time,
Right.
or the sense of wanting to hide it. And because you have gone through it so much in such a heavy way, and of course we've been together, but I still like as a husband, as a father, it still feels like very one-sided. Of course I feel grief and I feel sad, but like if you were to put on a weighing scale, I'm probably like 1% of the pain. Or if there's 100% of the pain, you bear 99.9 and I bear zero point zero 0.01. Don't get me wrong, that zero point zero 0.01 is still heavy and it hurts, but it's still nothing in compared. So yeah, so I'm glad that we're talking about it. I think it's really great for other people to hear about it. And I'm sure someone out there on the internet will find some solace on this sort of like non-famous people talking about it, right? That's um,
Right.
and I think it's cool that you're wanting to share it because now you're in a place, in a good place mentally where you just feel good. I mean, feel good and bad, right? You
Yeah.
just you feel on solid ground, which is good. I could go to the next question here is how can women turn their grief into a source of strength and empowerment? Grief is tough. Like, how do they turn that
It is
negative energy?
tough. It's tough, like you got to go through those stages first. Like you got to let yourself grieve, right? There's stages of grief. Really, is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And those five, you have to go through it, the whole entire thing, because if you miss one, I feel like it's gonna go back to you tenfold. And I think that's what happened to me. So, like you really like with as far as grief is concerned, you really have to take your time in processing everything, right? So at first you know, it's denial stage, right? And it's, you can't believe something like that happened to you, right? And then because you don't believe that something should have happened to you, you become angry. It's like you get angry at yourself, you get angry at the situation. Sometimes you even blame God, right? And that's like how the process works, really. Um, and then like you just start to get into like the to the depression stage and the acceptance stage. It just really depends on like how, like, it doesn't have to go in order, but I think the most order I've ever really been was denial and then anger, right? You have to go through the whole entire thing, really. But um what was the question again? I'm like
I mean, how do you turn the grief into
how
empowerment?
do you turn the grief um into empowerment and strength? You just gotta like turn that grief. You have to identify the situation and then acknowledge that it happened. Accept that you need time and healing, and then you really do have to grieve. You really have to do the grieving, because without that, like it's just going to be really hard in the long run. So once you acknowledge and you accept, right, that it happened to you, and you give yourself the time and the healing, then you really have to dig deep within you to be able to like to just allow your emotions. I think what I did was I really just what I did. It's really a hard question. It is a very, very hard question. But what I did was I allow my emotions to get the best of me. I cried my butt off. I usually don't cry. I'm not a crier. I'm not a crier. But I let myself, my emotions take a hold of me. So I cried. And then after the crying happened, I stood up and because I have other kids. I have a husband, I have friends. So I got up from where I was and, like told myself that it's okay to feel, but I still need to move, right? For the people around me. So I got up, went on the treadmill, and started running. And that, that running thing is actually more therapeutic for me because of the fact that as I run, I was letting my emotions out. So it's like, as hard as it was for me to get up, moving and getting blood flow in my system helped me more than lying down and doing absolutely, nothing and just crying. And, just, yeah, you just got to do something. You got to do something for yourself and accept that it didn't happen to you, it happened for you.
It's very powerful. So
So
can you like share more? I mean, you shared a lot already, like just kind of like the experience and all, but can you share your journey of like just kind of what you've gone through? Maybe you can, take us back to any part that you feel comfortable sharing, that can sort of like, just give a sense for just what your journey was like, because I
right.
think a lot of people would love, or not love, they would love to connect with somebody or feel connection with somebody because it's a very lonely place, when you have a loss, especially a loss like this. It's not like losing a grandparent or a parent. It's like it's, it's hard to say
Especially
this.
losing a part of you.
It's yeah, it's losing a part. I think the
Every
part that's
single
just also this part might sound politically incorrect or bad. It's just like you lose to some people or to a lot of people, you're losing someone that never existed, and there's a part of people that feel that way. Um,
that never existed because you're outside of that self. If you have started feeling it yourself, when you feel your baby move, when you feel that's a part of you. Once you lose that part of you, it's lost forever. It is like, it is death, it is grief, it is something that is a part of you that you have lost. So, you know, turning it back and how like you're thinking about it, it's something that didn't exist to you but it exists to me because that was like they were like all the miscarriages and Alexandra, which is a stillbirth, it's they were all a part of me.
no,
So
I want to clarify. It's very real to me. She's very real to me. She lives, right? I want to make that clear. I was simply speaking for what people may think as someone that didn't exist. So, but I believe she's real and she's a living person that died, and we're sad about it. And I just want to make it clear that I don't believe that. I'm just saying people. I'm saying just from the outside, I know that there's that belief exists, and it's like, and also as a parent or as a mother who experienced a loss, there's also that understanding that it does exist, that sort of like it's, they're not a real person to some degree. Again, that's why, again, a lot much different than losing a parent that's outside in the world that you spent time with, as opposed to losing, you know, a loss like this. But I just want to make that clear. But continue, please, like
if
about
you
like,
if you think about it too, like I've read somewhere that every baby or every pregnancy you had, some cell of that specific pregnancy stays within the mother.
hmm.
I've read that somewhere. So, if you take comfort in knowing that in the loss, a part of them are still within you, then take comfort in that because that's actually a study. I just don't know where I read it from.
Mm.
But like I read so many things and I just don't know how to cite them. But anyway,
How many miscarriages or stillbirths have you had, if you can
so
give us
I
perspective, or
think,
the
well,
audience
I
perspective?
think Alexandra was the 10th or 11th. I'm not sure. I guess it's the 10th if you don't count chemical pregnancy, I
Hmm.
would have to say. The first one, okay, so this happened within the 4 years, four
Hmm.
years. Within 4 years that we were trying, the first what happened was I had an IUD after we had Tiny for 5 years, and I got it removed after the 5 years. So that would be 2014. That was 2019, actually. 2019 when we started. It was in September when we started uh, trying. And then I think we went to Las Vegas. Was it the time we went to Las Vegas? Yes, that was the time we went to Las Vegas, 2019, before before everything happened. And I think that January is when we found out that the baby had no heartbeat. I remember it so well too. It was in the second trimester, and the
That
doctor,
could be
she
13, I
put
think, right?
13 weeks.
Yeah.
So actually 13 weeks. So that's the second trimester. And then actually we had a few second trimester babies that we lost. And then I remember that was Kaiser. The doctor was a NP, and I think she was kind of new because once she saw that there was no heartbeat, she was trying really hard,
Mhm.
and she didn't know what to say.
This was Scotts Valley, right?
That was Scotts Valley, yeah, when we
There in
went
Southie.
for the ultrasound. And then she came back in after she composed herself, I believe, and she said the baby has no heartbeat.
Mm.
But I could be wrong. She said this too, but I could be wrong. So I'm going to schedule you for another ultrasound in a better ultrasound machine. And then we were scheduled to go to San Jose.
Mm.
So that's the first that's the first miscarriage. I mean, I could go on and on about all these miscarriages and I can tell you each and every single one of them, but there's not going to be enough time. But I
Can I
remember,
share my experience? Just one for that particular event.
yeah, that
Um,
one
yeah.
particular. What was that?
Can I just share my experience
Yeah.
from that particular
Yes,
loss?
please.
I remember going on my knees and praying. And prior to that, I don't think I've prayed for over 10 years, probably. I don't think I prayed so hard. It was just such like a hammer hits your chest, you know. I remember just how deflating it was, right?
Mhm.
I say with a smile or whatever, a smirk. It's just, I don't know. We've come really far. So
Mhm.
it's kind of part of what I look at too.
So we had a few um miscarriages at second trimester. I think we even had one at 16 weeks.
Mm.
Um, but then we found out at 16 weeks, I think we found out at 16 weeks, and then we found out that the baby is probably a couple weeks
Mhm.
ready. Before when the heartbeat stopped, I think.
Yeah.
That was also done in San Jose. Was And then there's a couple first trimester, and then there's an ectopic pregnancy, which I got a surgery for. That's here in Las Vegas. But like, all that, the the thing that really made it so much more difficult was Alexandra, because we had so much. Actually, like before, I guess before we talk about this is we also had a IVF. So this is what happens. Okay, like we're getting a lot of miscarriages and we don't know what to do. So we went and paid $30,000. I,
More. Yeah.
I probably more than that because of the meds
Medicine.
for IVF, because we really wanted a baby. We had our we had hope. They didn't find anything. They didn't find anything in Ryan. They didn't find anything wrong with me. We got PGA tested. We got the embryos PGA tested, and they were great. And the baby, just like, we were thriving, and then it was good. And then the fertility clinic let us go because they said everything looked amazing and looked great and looked healthy. And then sure enough, we lost the baby. I think that was 16 weeks. Do you remember that one?
I mean, they all like honestly, after the first, they all kind of merged together,
Mm.
you know. I do remember that. I do remember every time doctor came in. I mean, before the stillbirth, there was another one that was pretty heavy as well.
That was a topic.
Oh, and it was that well.
There was another one that we had a miscarriage. So like with all these things happening, like all the miscarriages and everything, like, you like when you get pregnant, when I get pregnant, like I was hoping and praying like every day, pray to God that hopefully this is it, because I feel good about this. I feel good about this. With Alexandra, that's how I felt. Like I would pray every day. I would, ask God to please, I will do anything to keep this baby. So, you know, um,
How did you cope with it all? Like the initial shock, the pain with each loss. What was your, I mean, you mentioned like the treadmill, but like, what are maybe some other things that have been helpful
the
for you?
loss, I mean, the initial thought or feeling when like I gotten so used to those like facial expressions of the
I
ultrasound
know the
tech.
word, sorry, I just,
It's the freaking worst. Like, like they're getting the ultrasound, and then they have this facial expression that just like literally change, and exactly
you
what
know what
level.
it feels like? The room just goes ice cold
And yeah.
instantly. Like there's like this moment, like they just like the ultrasound lady or whatever, there's like this moment of like, and it just gets cold. And it's, oh God, it's the fucking
And
worst.
no matter how much they try to hide it, because they can't really, they're not going to tell you it, because the doctor has to be present, or the doctor has to tell you.
Yeah, yeah.
You know exactly what's going on, because like, you've gone through it so much that once, like, the expression when they do the ultrasound, they go like, you know it's like, so, and then they just like get up from their seat very, very professionally, and it is professional, but then the human factor is still there, and you're like, motherfucker, not again, right? So that's, it's hard. Like the initial reaction is like, shit, this it's happening again. I can't believe it's happening again, right? Especially the previous one, which is when Alexandra, because the night before that appointment, She was moving.
I
She was
know.
moving a
I
lot.
moved a lot, like a lot. I remember how much she moved.
And I was like thinking, oh, the I can't wait until I see her tomorrow because tomorrow is the ultrasound. I was so excited, and when we went to the doctor, but like I had a weird feeling also. Remember me telling you that like I haven't felt her move this morning.
Yeah, it scared me.
So,
I do
but
remember.
like I was hopeful. I was very hopeful because we felt her the night before. So, and then we went on to do the ultrasound, and sure enough, that facial expression just confirmed what had happened. And it was very quick, very, very quick. And, you know, and then we had to schedule delivery. And it's the worst delivery ever that I've had
Hmm.
to go through because you're delivering a baby and you know that you're not going to have a baby afterwards to take home with you. It was more than 24 hours of labor. It hurt like hell. They gave me painkillers and then it just kept on. Like it was just so painful still. And I asked for epidural. They fucked up the epidural because I think there's some calcium buildup in the bones. So that's what they were saying. And I said, fuck, just give me pills because it hurt more to do the epidural than to actually go through that the process. But it was so painful. It was so painful. You go through the labor pains, go through the that freaking worst epidural I've ever had. And I've had the epidural before, but like they just kept on poking me and poking me and poking me at the back. And then I had to go through the pain and then like the labor. And then after the labor, you think it was done, but then like, yeah, but then I was actually like, I had that issue with my head, remember?
Hmm.
One of the doctors figure out that it's because of what happened in the epidural process. And he did another epidural to take out like all the things that like that's making my head hurt. It was like magic.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
I remember that.
That was he
I
knew exactly what to do.
Yeah, he knew
Uh,
exactly what to do. I had like after those epidural, my like after the labor, my head was like literally being like crushed. Like I've never had that headache before. And I told the doctor and the
uh,
anesthetician,
anesthesia, nurse
anesthesiology.
anesthetist. Nurse, we're not getting our skin exfoliated. We are nurse anesthetist. This is called.
Yeah, well, the doctor that did the anesthesia.
Interestingly enough, I actually personally train a nurse anesthetist. I can say the word right. And I also train an esthetician too.
Esthetician. I know esthetician, not. But anyway, what he was what like I told him about the headache. They were giving me like Tylenol, and I'm like, Tylenol is not working. Okay, we're gonna give you some like Advil. It's not working. Can you please make sure, like, can you please call someone to fix it? And they called the whatever, the doctor, and
The
the
pain
drug
doctor,
doctor,
whatever, the pain nurse.
the drug doctor, and sure enough, like he fixed it within a few seconds, like by doing another epidural. He said like you're gonna really hate this, but the only cure for that headache is doing another epidural. So I
Oh,
had to,
that's right.
like,
Mm.
after the birth, after the labor, all that stuff that I had to go through for 2 days. Was it? I think it was 2 days too, not just 24 hours. So it was 2 days. Um, After that, it was like, it was like magic. Like after he did the epidural, it was like magic. But then, I had to go through all those pains, like, and thinking about it, like, the walk of shame. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Walk of shame is
You try to
basically
walk out, you try to walk out,
you're
pretending like
walking
nothing
out of the
happened.
hospital
Yeah.
without a baby,
Yeah.
but you just went through labor, like 2 day labor, but you don't walk out with a baby. It's like the most painful walk.
I remember being so upset, like just having to be there because, or not in that way, but just upset that like you had to go through it all, and we're here having to go through this, and it was just like it's that feeling of denial, non-acceptance of of grief.
So that was actually one of the most painful one that I had to go through. Took me a while to get through that. That was August, end of August of last year when that happened. I shut everyone down or out. I shut everyone out. I texted my best friend. I said, I am not going to talk to you for a few weeks.
Hmm.
I texted my family and I told them what happened, and I said to them that I will not to talk be talking to anyone for a few weeks because I have to go through this whole deal. And I'm actually grateful that they respected that.
Hmm.
Like I even messaged the team. I think I messaged not the team, but Raquel, and Raquel just, told everyone else about it. I
Hmm.
will not be talking to anyone. I will be taking a few days off until everything is, you know, settled, and I'm, I'm done grieving. Well, you're never really done with the grief. It just, like, I just feel like it just becomes better. You get to accept it more, and you acknowledge it more, and you're more aware. But I feel like it's always going to be there, that pain, but then it's not as big, and it's not as, impactful as it used to be. And then there will come a time when you're able to actually talk about it. And for me, talking about it helps heal.
So
Talk
like what have you taken towards, so you talk about talking about it, what steps have you taken towards healing and finding peace after such a loss?
After such a loss is basically just that, like, me talking to you about it, someone who would be able to understand who I am as a person. Um, Talking to the people closest to you if you're open to it, or just actually, like, it was just you that I talked to about it, because everyone else that I would talk to about it would probably not understand what I'm going through, because you know me, you're here every day, you're with me every day, like, you gave me my space. um I read.
Hmm. You said a
I
little reading. Is that kind of what happened? Kind of?
I started reading, and then I did some journaling just to get it out of my system, because you have to get it out somehow. Whether you talking to someone about it that is so close to you, but or just putting it down on paper. The thing that helped me a little bit is actually recording myself, like recording a video of myself talking about it, whether you cry or you don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm actually an introvert. Not like I'm not very talkative to people. So when I do talk about it, it's, you know, you're really, you're gonna wonder why I'm talking about it really. But like recording myself audio or video, I have those recordings still, helped to kind of get it out of my system a little bit better. Or like, so I can ease back um into my day to day, because I feel like you have such, what do you call that? You have such heavy heart, like your whole like body is heavy, like this whole entire thing right here
Hmm.
was heavy. It was heavy. Like you can't even get up heavy. And those are all the feelings of grief, right? If you don't let some of it out, it's just going to consume you for a long period of time. And you don't know how you're going to be able to get out of it. So, um, what I was thinking about is like, I have to get it out of my system somehow, or like, at least lighten the load. So the whole thing, what I was thinking was I would run right away. Because I'm like, I like exercise. I don't like missing workouts. So, and I was like, I gained a lot of weight anyway. So I was thinking about exercising right away, doing deadlifts and running. But it was still hard to get up. So I decided, like, I'm thinking, like, I can't really run. I can't really walk. I can't do anything. So I'm thinking I have to really get it out of my system in a different way. So I recorded myself. That helped. Like, okay, this
Mm.
is helping.
Yeah.
So, and then I talked about it
How
on.
did you get that idea? I'm curious, like, how did you decide that was how did you like decide, like, I can't work out, I can't move, but I'm gonna record myself? Like, where do you think that came from?
I can't move. I had my phone. So either I'm gonna watch a show that's probably not gonna do anything to me or my brain cells, and just, and just watch like a zombie and still feel the same exact way, or like, because I'm not gonna get anything out that way. Or I can just let some steam out by recording myself. And I had my phone because I need my phone. Like, gotta call you, gotta call the kids if I need to, or whatever. But like I started recording myself because it is available. And then after that recording, I got up. And then the next day, I started writing it down. As I write it down, I was crying, but that's also letting emotions out, which made it a little bit bearable. So every time I do it, every time I cry, every time I write something down, every time I record a video, something becomes bearable, like little by little. And then eventually I like went to the garage and to went to the garage and started walking. And then I did like intervals the next day. And then, and then intervals again the next day. And I started running. And that, like, as I'm running, I'm, just letting all the emotions out. Sometimes in the treadmill, I would cry my eyes out because like there's so much grief that I wasn't able to handle it. I couldn't even move my body. But then, like, as I moved my body, I was crying, right? That's, that's how I got over it. And then, and I decided to do 75 hard because I was so
Right. How far did you get 75 hard? Well, before you tell us that, tell us what 75 hard is.
75 hard is basically you take a photo of yourself every day. Um, and then you work out twice a day, about at least 45 minutes. One has to be outside because you need the vitamin um, from the sun. And then read to at least 10 pages a day. And you're supposed to do that for 75 days. Did I miss anything?
You're supposed to follow a diet
Yeah,
and
you're
diet.
supposed to follow a diet. So I did
Yeah.
keto.
And then what was the workout again? You had to do two workouts. Did you say that already?
Workouts, yeah, 45 minutes each. And the first one, the at least one of those is going to be outside, and then
Okay.
they have to be 3 hours, 3 hours apart at least, at the very least. Because like you can do 45 minutes and then 45 minutes after the other. So that's kind of cheating because, yeah. So that was 75 hard. I I knew I wasn't gonna get to 75 because I had a trip planned. So I knew I was only gonna get to 60, and I got to 60 days.
It's pretty good though. I mean, that's crazy.
So I got to 60 days. Um, but I was like, I was actually really grateful for it because I discovered Jordan Peterson.
Mm.
And then after I discovered Jordan Peterson, after I read the 12 rules for life, it was freaking amazing. It's an amazing book. Uh, I started running outside with the audiobook too after I read the entire book. After that, I discovered the carnivore diet. That was last year. I started the carnivore diet on November 2nd of last year, and I'm still on it. So it's pretty incredible. So it's
What
a really good journey, I guess.
so tell us like what experiences what have these experiences taught you about your life? Like the resilience and yourself. Like what is a lesson going through all this? What are your biggest lessons?
My biggest lesson in all this is basically getting to know myself a little bit more. When you dig within yourself, you get to learn more about yourself and what you can really do. Like there's so many things that you can do, and um a lot of people don't necessarily don't a lot of people don't realize their potential until they're pushed to the edge, to the very edge. And with all the trauma that I went through, and especially with this really, really heartbreaking one, the last one, I found myself so miserable, but I was able to get back up. I was pushed to the very edge, and where there's no more, like, where you feel like there's no hope of getting back up. But then I was able to do it. And so I learned that there's no limits on what I can do as a person because I went through so many traumatic things that I'm still here today. And like running a team, having this family, this household, this is like, it's a blessing. Every day is a blessing. Every day is a blessing. And what, like, I learned so much about myself and what I can do what type of person I am. I'm a logical thinker. I do feel emotions, but I know how to get myself from an extreme emotion, that like that is welcomed, but you need to get out from eventually by thinking logically and what needs to happen, what, like what's I guess that's just how I am. That's always how I've been with all the traumas I went through, that like I can get up and get going again, no matter how difficult it is.
I mean, what we're really sort of talking about here is like heartbreak, how do you find uh hope and strength, after having such, you're heartbroken in this way.
Hope and strength, you
Yeah.
find it in
How do you find the hope and strength? Yeah.
you find it in the people that you have around you. So you
Mm.
can't do it all on your own. People around you will help. Like, like it sucks to be alone. I mean, um, and what I learned like recently is that, like, I can do anything I want to do, but then there's so much more I can do with the people I have connections with my family, with my husband, with everyone else around me. Because without them, I don't know where I'm gonna be.
Who or what provided you the most support during these times?
Who or what?
Yeah, who or what provided you the most support during these times? Support systems. Like, what were your support systems really?
You and the kids. The kids understood. I'm so grateful for that.
So sweet. They are.
They are very sweet. They were always there. They knew what was happening. They knew it was hurting me the most. It's not that it doesn't hurt them either, but I feel like they understand it more because of the fact that I was like, they know the type of person I am, the type of
Mm.
person I am, and they know I was miserable. They knew I was miserable. And they were so they were so great about it. Like they were always checking on me. They were always um wanting to know if I was okay. When we broke the news, they all looked at me and they said, "Are you okay, mom?"
Mm.
They cried for me. They did. That's
Oh,
what they did. They cried for me. Um, you know. And I know they were hurting too. I know you were hurting too.
yeah.
Um,
How can friends and family best support someone who's going through a similar experience?
let them just feel. I think that is the best way you can really help them, is by helping them feel. Because sometimes, like families, like moms, or I've met someone in the reunion that I went to in the Philippines that had the same or similar situation. And Filipinos usually like, like to meddle,
Yeah.
especially Filipino moms. And when Filipino moms would like to be there, because they love their child, of course. But sometimes, like, but sometimes that person just needs the peace. It's the peace that they need. Sometimes they just need the I need to be on my own for a little bit because I need to feel. Because if you're on their you're if you're in their space, the feeling is like, like the energy just becomes like unbearable. Like I feel like people grieving has like start to like, at least for me, I started to have like empathic ability where I can feel everyone's energy right around me, because I have like, I'm feeling this certain way, and that I feel like it's opening for other people's feelings, and you don't want to confuse other people's feelings for how you are feeling. So what I'm thinking is that, like, if you do have someone that's going through something like that, I think the best possible way you could help them heal is to let them be and let them have their peace. Let them feel, let them go through grief. There's no word that you can say to them that will automatically make them feel better. Nothing. No words can make them feel better. So,
Um,
well, you can say, I'm here for you, but that's like, but then leave it at that.
so it's kind of like closing. This is a perfect closing question here. It says, what message would you like to share with other women who are experiencing similar grief?
Just know that it's gonna get better. It's just gonna, I mean, you're never going to forget, that person or the baby. You're not gonna be able to forget that. It's always gonna be ingrained in your mind. It's going to be ingrained in your heart. But then what you want to think about really is that the baby that you lost will want you to pick back up. So you want to do that for yourself, and you want to take care of yourself, because whatever it is that you're going through is just gonna get better with time. But, like with time, but don't rush yourself into feeling that right away. You need to go through grief. Going through grief is actually really like the most essential part of the process. Because if you, like, some people are in denial and they want to stay in that denial stage because they don't want to feel anything else, because it is heartbreaking. But you gotta let yourself feel. You gotta let yourself feel that grief. You have to feel that pain, because if you don't, you're not gonna be able to. You're just not gonna be able to. It's not gonna be healthy.
Yeah.
Not gonna be healthy. It's gonna be harder for you in the long run.
Anything else you like to do in closing? I guess that's pretty good. That was really, you did great, babe.
Well, thank you.
I'm really proud of you. It's
Well,
good.
thanks. That's very sweet.
I'm glad I got to share this interview with you.
Me too. Me too. Thank you all for listening. If you made it this far, very, very grateful for you guys. And that is it for Ryan and I. Peace.